You are the fuel the system burns to stay warm. Sounds harsh? Then consider this. You've likely felt this. A cold, hollow realization at 11 p.m. as you close your laptop after another ambitious 14-hour shift. You've stacked your morning with cold plunges, your afternoons with deep work sessions, and your nights with skill-building courses that promised you an edge. Yet, despite being a perfect specimen of modern productivity, your financial reality remains frozen. Your psyche demands a sense of fairness. You want to believe the world tracks your sweat and converts it into currency. But in 2026, the market isn't a judge of character. It's a cold calculator of scarcity. The brutal truth: effort has become a high-volume, low-value commodity. In an era where everyone is optimizing their life, being a hard worker is no longer a path to the 1%. It's the minimum requirement to stay at the bottom. You are sprinting in a lane so crowded that your individual speed is irrelevant. You aren't building a future. You are merely maintaining a treadmill that someone else owns. We aren't here to offer you a push or a motivational speech. Machiavelli understood that when the game is rigged, the only way to win is to stop playing by the consensus rules. Fortune doesn't reward the most tired soldier. It rewards the strategist who exits the trenches before the shelling begins. Over the next 3 to 6 months, we are going to stop talking about grit and start talking about asymmetry. We're going to show you why your current safety is actually a death sentence for your wealth, and how to pay the crowd tax one last time before you leave the masses behind. The age of the grind is an obituary. It's time to master the physics of the lever. Discipline is perhaps the most dangerous virtue of the modern age. Your psyche demands it because discipline provides a sense of control, a feeling that if you just tick every box on your habit tracker, the universe owes you a payout. But let us look at the cold Machiavellian reality. Discipline is a tool for reliability, not a tool for wealth. In the eyes of the system, a disciplined person is a predictable asset. You have been trained to believe that if you can just master the art of the 5 a.m. wake-up call and the deep work session, you will eventually transcend the 99%. But you must ask yourself, who actually benefits from your perfect discipline? If you are disciplined in a role where your output is capped, or in a business model that doesn't scale, your discipline is nothing more than high-level maintenance for your own stagnation. We see it everywhere in 2026. A generation of optimized workers who are more disciplined than any generation in history. They have the apps, the routines, the cold plunges, and the focus. Yet, they are still trading their most precious, non-renewable asset, time, for a fixed, linear reward. Your mind craves the ritual because it masks the terrifying truth that you are on the wrong path. It's easier to focus on whether you drank enough water today than to face the reality that your current career path has zero leverage. This is the discipline trap. It's the act of perfecting your performance in a play that is destined to close on opening night. Machiavelli understood that a prince who is perfectly disciplined in a dying fortress will still lose his head. The virtue isn't in the act of staying constant. The virtue is in knowing when to abandon the structure entirely. You've likely felt this, that internal scream when you realize that despite your perfect month of productivity, your life looks exactly the same as it did 30 days ago. Your banking app doesn't care about your streak of meditation. The market doesn't pay for your consistency. It pays for the disproportionate value that consistency produces. And if you are consistent in a low-leverage environment, your value is mathematically destined to stay low. Your psyche wants to believe that one day this discipline will compound into a breakthrough, but discipline without a lever is just organized exhaustion. To beat the 99% in the next 3 to 6 months, you must stop obsessing over the how of your daily routine and start questioning the where of your efforts. Being the most disciplined person in a crowded room just makes you the most efficient person at being average. We need to move beyond the comfort of the routine and look at the brutal architecture of how wealth is actually captured. It isn't through the steady drip of daily habits. It's through the calculated identification of where the crowd isn't looking. You've likely felt a strange paradox. The safer a path feels, the less it actually pays. This is the crowd penalty, and in 2026, it is the single most expensive tax you will ever pay. Your psyche is hardwired to seek safety in numbers. Evolution taught us that if the whole tribe is moving toward that valley, there must be water there. But in the modern economy, if the whole tribe is moving toward a valley, the water was finished months ago. The crowd penalty is a mathematical law of saturation. When a strategy, whether it's a specific career path, a business model like dropshipping, or a safe investment, becomes common knowledge, its profit margin evaporates. Why? Because competition doesn't just make things harder, it neutralizes the reward. Most people believe that safety comes from doing what everyone else is doing. They think, if millions of people are studying this or working in this industry, it must be viable. We are telling you that the opposite is true. In a world of infinite connectivity, as soon as a path is proven to be safe, it is already dead. Think of it as a biological ecosystem. When too many predators hunt the same prey, the entire species starves. You see this in the gold rush cycles of the digital age. By the time you see a TikTok guru explaining a business model, the window of 99% advantage has already slammed shut. You are not entering a gold mine. You are entering a crowded room where people are fighting over the dust. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He knew that a prince who follows the common way is easily predicted, easily replaced, and easily destroyed. To be richer than 99% of people, you must commit what we call intellectual treason. You must deliberately betray the consensus. You've probably felt that internal resistance, that fear of being wrong or weird because you aren't following the traditional trajectory. Your brain screams that staying with the crowd is security. But look around you. Is the crowd wealthy? Is the crowd free? Is the crowd secure? No. The crowd is drowning in debt and anxiety, working 60 hours a week to fund a lifestyle they don't even enjoy. The safe path is actually the most dangerous gamble you can take. It's a guarantee of mediocrity. The exit strategy isn't about working in a different way. It's about being in a different place. It's about looking for the quiet opportunities that the masses find too risky, too boring, or too complicated. While the 99% are fighting for crumbs in the bright light of popular trends, the 1% are building empires in the shadows of ignored industries. To beat the system in 3 to 6 months, you must stop asking, "What is everyone else doing?" and start asking, "What is everyone else avoiding?" Because the profit is always found in the friction that the crowd is too lazy to overcome. Your wealth is hidden behind the very things the majority calls too difficult or not worth it. If you want the rewards that the 99% don't have, you must stop paying the crowd penalty. You must have the Machiavellian courage to be wrong in the eyes of the many, to be right in the eyes of the market. It's time to stop seeking the comfort of the pack and start seeking the isolation of the frontier. Wealth is not a reward for your labor. It is a byproduct of your position. This is the hardest truth for the human ego to swallow. Your psyche wants to believe that the world is a meritocracy where the most talented person in the room wins. But history and Machiavelli tell a much darker, more practical story. In the architecture of power, it doesn't matter how fast you swim if you are swimming against the tide of a collapsing dam. Most people spend their entire lives trying to become better at their jobs. They seek more skills, more degrees, and more tasks. They are focused on activity, but the 1% are obsessed with position. Think of a massive construction project. You have the laborers, the engineers, and the owner. The laborer works the hardest, sweating for 10 hours a day. The engineer solves the most complex problems, but when the building is finished, the owner, the person who simply stood at the choke point of capital and land, reaps 99% of the long-term rewards. The laborer and the engineer were essential, but they were replaceable. The owner's position was not. You have likely felt this. The bitter realization that your boss or your boss's boss works half as hard as you do, yet earns 10 times more. Your instinct is to call it unfair, A Machiavellian mind calls it strategic positioning. They aren't being paid for their effort, they are being paid for the structural hole they occupy. They are the bridge between the problem and the solution. If they disappear, the system breaks. If you disappear, the system just hires another disciplined worker from the endless line of people waiting outside. To beat the 99% in the next 3 to 6 months, you must stop asking, "How can I do more?" and start asking, "What would happen if I stopped?" If the answer is, the company would find a replacement by Monday, then you have zero positional power. You are a commodity, and commodities are always priced at the lowest possible margin. Wealth flows to the bottlenecks. It flows to the people who control the access, the information, or the assets that others cannot easily replicate. In the 15th century, Machiavelli observed that the most successful princes weren't the strongest warriors. They were the ones who controlled the narrow mountain passes that every merchant had to travel through. They didn't build the goods. They just occupied the space where the goods had to pass. In 2026, those mountain passes have changed. They are now digital algorithms, proprietary databases, niche market dominance, or high-level social capital. If you are working in a wide-open field where anyone can enter and compete with you, you will always be poor. You are fighting a war of attrition. The architecture of advantage requires you to move your labor into a narrow pass. You need to find a niche where your specific combination of skills, what we call specific knowledge, makes you a monopoly of one. When you are a monopoly, you don't negotiate for a salary. You dictate the terms of the value you provide. Your psyche will resist this. It will tell you that it's safer to be an all-rounder, a generalist who can do everything. But generalists are the fuel that the system burns to keep the elite warm. Specialists who occupy a strategic bottleneck are the ones who own the furnace. If you want to change your life in 180 days, stop trying to be the best worker in the crowded valley. Start climbing toward the bottleneck, because 1 hour of work at the right position is worth 10 years of labor in the wrong one. If you want to understand why some people earn in a day what others earn in a decade, you have to look at the geometry of their work. Most people operate on a linear scale. Their output is a direct one-to-one reflection of their input. You work an hour, you get paid for an hour. You push a rock, it moves a foot. This is effort, and it is the slowest, most grueling way to build wealth. The 1%, however, operate on an exponential scale. They do not focus on how hard they can push. They focus on the length of the lever they are using. This is leverage, the great divider. You have likely felt the exhaustion of linear living. It's that feeling that no matter how much you optimize your schedule, you have hit a ceiling because you only have 24 hours in a day. Your psyche is trapped in the labor mindset, believing that to double your income, you must double your hours. But that is mathematically impossible once you're already working at capacity. In the 21st century, there are 4 primary forms of leverage, and if you aren't using at least 2 of them, you are essentially working with your bare hands while your competitors are using bulldozers. First, there is labor, having people work for you. This is the oldest, most Machiavellian form of leverage. But in 2026, managing humans is messy and expensive. Second, there is capital, money. Money is a silent soldier that works while you sleep. But most people watching this don't have millions to invest yet. This is where the new levers come in, the ones that allow a single person to beat a corporation in 3 to 6 months. Third is code. Software doesn't get tired, it doesn't ask for a raise, and it can serve 1 million people as easily as it serves one. One developer writes a script that automates a process for thousands of businesses. They work hard once, they get paid forever. Fourth is media. This video is leverage. We are speaking to thousands of people simultaneously. Our effort is decoupled from our time. Whether 10 people watch this or 10 million, our input remains the same, but the output scales infinitely. Machiavelli noted that a prince must use the tools of his time to amplify his will. If you are still relying solely on your physical presence or your manual labor, you are an easy target for those who use code and media to amplify theirs. You've probably felt the pull of the lever when you see a 20-year-old with a YouTube channel or a simple SaaS app out-earning a surgeon with 20 years of experience. Your brain wants to call it luck or unfair. But it isn't luck. It's the physics of leverage. The surgeon is selling a highly skilled but ultimately linear service. The kid with the app is selling a leveraged product. To become richer than 99% of people in the next 3 to 6 months, you must stop being a doer and start being a multiplier. You must ask yourself every morning, is what I am doing today leveraged or is it just labor? If you spend your day answering emails, that is labor. If you spend your day building a system that answers those emails for you, that is leverage. One keeps you busy, the other makes you wealthy. The great divider isn't intelligence. It isn't even grit. It is the willingness to stop pushing the rock with your hands and spend the time necessary to build the machine that moves the rock for you. The crowd is too busy pushing to ever stop and build. That is why they stay at the bottom, and that is why you are about to pass them. Most people believe that to change your life in 3 to 6 months, you need to work at a superhuman pace. They imagine sleepless nights and frantic activity. But they are mistaken. To beat the 99% in such a short window, you don't need speed of action. You need speed of decision. You've likely felt this, the paralyzing weight of waiting for the right time. Your psyche is addicted to certainty. You want to wait until you have more data, more money, or more confidence before you quit that stagnant job or pivot your entire business model. But while you are waiting for certainty, the window of opportunity is closing. In the Machiavellian world of 2026, the cost of being late is far higher than the cost of being wrong. Machiavelli famously wrote that it is better to be impetuous than cautious because fortune is a woman, and if you wish to keep her under it is necessary to beat and ill-use her. In modern terms, the market doesn't reward the most prepared. It rewards the first to arrive at a new bottleneck. The 99% are trapped in a cycle of deliberation. They spend months analyzing a move while the 1% have already made the move, failed, pivoted, and captured the market. This is why the 3 to 6 month time frame is real. It's not about how much work you can do in 180 days. It's about how quickly you can recognize that your current lane is saturated and have the cold-blooded resolve to exit it immediately. We call this radical adaptability. Most people suffer from sunk cost bias. They think, I've spent 5 years in this industry, I can't just leave now. They treat their past efforts like an anchor, dragging them down to the bottom of a dying ocean. A Machiavellian mind treats the past as irrelevant. If the position you occupy today does not offer leverage, staying there is not loyalty, it's strategic suicide. You probably feel that internal friction right now. The thought of abandoning a stable path for an unproven one feels reckless. But you must realize that in a rapidly shifting economy, stability is the most dangerous illusion of all. The 99% stay in their lanes until the lane is completely dry. The 1% watch the clouds and move before the first drop of rain even hits the ground. However, understand this. 3 to 6 months is the time frame to kill the loser within you and claim your position, not the time to rest on your laurels. Discipline is still required, but only after you have found your lever. Discipline without a lever is slavery. Discipline with a lever is an empire. To reposition yourself in the next 90 days, you must master the art of the cold pivot. This means looking at your life with the detachment of a cold-blooded general. If a tactic isn't working, you scrap it. If a market is crowded, you leave it. You don't negotiate with a failing strategy. The speed of your success is determined by the length of time between realizing you are in the wrong position and actually moving. For the 99%, that gap is years. For you, it must be days. Wealth in 2026 will not be won by the strongest or the most disciplined. It will be won by the fastest to accept reality. Your psyche wants comfort. Reality demands movement. You don't beat the 99% by being better at the old game. You beat them by being the first to realize the game has changed and moving your pieces before they even realize there's a new board. Your psyche has a desperate, almost pathological need for hope. You want to be told that if you are a good person and you do your best, the world will eventually recognize your value and reward you. But this is a luxury of the weak. To reach the 1%, you must adopt what Machiavelli practiced: the ethics of truth. This is the ability to see the world exactly as it is, not as you wish it to be. Most people spend 3 to 6 months complaining about the unfairness of the system. They lament that the rich get richer, that algorithms are biased, or that their boss doesn't appreciate them. While they are busy being right and morally superior, the 1% are busy being effective. They understand that the market is a cold, amoral machine that doesn't care about your intentions. It only cares about your position and your leverage. You've likely felt this: the bitter taste of seeing someone less deserving than you achieve 10 times your results. Your instinct is to look for reasons why they are cheating or lucky. But a Machiavellian mind looks at the mechanics. They didn't win because they were better people. They won because they accepted the reality of the game while you were still protesting the rules. This is the cold reality of 2026. Hope is a strategy for people who plan to wait. If you are waiting for the perfect opportunity, you are actually waiting for permission. And in the world of high-level wealth, permission is never given. It is taken through strategic displacement. You do not ask for a seat at the table. You build a table that makes the old one irrelevant. Machiavelli noted that there is such a gap between how one lives and how one should live, that he who neglects what is being done for what should be done will rather learn his destruction than his preservation. To be richer than 99% of people in the next 180 days, you must stop living in the should. You should be paid more for your degree? Irrelevant. The market doesn't pay for degrees, it pays for scarcity. You should be rewarded for your 10 years of loyalty? Irrelevant. The market doesn't pay for loyalty, it pays for the cost of replacement. Once you accept this, a strange thing happens. The frustration vanishes. When you stop expecting the world to be fair, you can finally start making it work for you. You stop being a victim of the unfair system and start becoming its architect. The 99% are held back by their moral attachment to failing structures. They stay in dying industries because they believe in them. They keep working for companies that don't value them because they hope things will change. The 1% have the ethical clarity to realize that their highest duty is to their own leverage. In the next 3 to 6 months, you will face a choice. You can continue to be a reasonable person who demands that the world changes its nature to accommodate you, or you can become an unreasonable person who changes their own position to exploit the nature of the world. History does not remember the reasonable people who worked hard and waited their turn. It records the outcomes of those who looked at the cold, brutal truth of their environment and moved before anyone else dared to. The reality isn't cruel, it's just indifferent. And in that indifference lies your greatest opportunity. As you finish this video, you aren't just closing a tab, you are deciding which side of a widening chasm you want to inhabit. On one side stands the mass of humanity, the 99% who still believe that if they just push the rock a little harder, the laws of economics will eventually bend in their favor. On the other side is a quiet, calculated minority that has stopped pushing and started building engines of asymmetry. You've likely felt that familiar pull while watching this, the urge to return to the comfort of your grind. Your psyche is terrified of the void that appears when you stop being busy. But remember, in 2026, the system doesn't just want your labor, it needs your compliance. It needs you to stay in the lane so that the traffic remains predictable. To become richer than 99% of people in the next 180 days, you must commit the ultimate act of Machiavellian rebellion. You must become unexploitable. You do this by refusing to compete in crowded valleys and by identifying the bottlenecks before the crowd even knows they exist. This isn't a call to work 20 hours a day. It's a call to spend 20 minutes a day making the decisions that most people are too scared to face. History is a cold record of outcomes. It doesn't care about your good intentions or how much you sacrifice to stay in a dying lane. It only remembers who had the speed to reposition before the window slammed shut. If you understand that strategy is the only true weapon against a rigged system, then you've found where you belong. We are building a collective of those who trade effort for leverage and hope for reality. If you are ready to stop being the fuel and start being the leader, subscribe and join us. We don't offer comfort here. We offer the cold mechanics of the 1%. Now, look at your path. If it looks exactly like the path of the person next to you, you aren't moving toward wealth. You are moving toward a dead end. You have 3 to 6 months. You can spend them perfecting your place in the crowd, or you can find the exit velocity to leave it forever. The lane is saturated. The logic is clear. The decision is yours. Will you be the one burning or the one creating?